All right. So we'll quickly brief what we have seen yesterday, and then we'll continue into today's session. Okay. So in yesterday's session, we did talk about very fundamentals of why HL7, what is HL7, where did the problem start. We discussed about the hospital workflow, and we saw that why exchanging data has become a problem or a challenge back in 1980s. And how HL7 has solved that problem by becoming a medium of communication to exchange the data between two different applications, right? And then we saw that HL7 messaging is essential in order to exchange data between two different applications. We did see how we coined the term called HL7, which is based on an OSI uh, layers. And then we did talk about how do we go ahead and look at the structure of an HL7 message. Every HL7 message has segments, segments as fields, fields as components, components as subcomponents. And we also did see the grammatical syntax that we need to be aware of. We mainly looked at three symbols. One is carriage return, second one is the pipe, third one is the caret. And we looked at a sample HL7 message. Today we will explore from there to understand how to read an HL7 message, and also we'll take a look at how HL7 message is an event-driven messaging methodology. All right, we'll take a look at the concepts of what are the different sectors of the data that hospitals might be having, and what are the different message types, what is an event type, what is a message type, how do we understand that is what we are going to take a look at. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So yesterday we looked at this sample HL7 message, right? And we understood from yesterday's session that every HL7 message that we look at will have segments. So it is divided into segments. As you can see here, there are 5 segments in total, and each segment will have a 3-letter acronym, which is at the beginning, which will tell you what is a segment all about. And that will tell you the information that is present within the segment. For example, PID stands for patient identification, and this will tell you what all the details that we have as part of identifying a patient. It could be the details of, or it could be the information about the name, or it could be the date of birth, gender, SSN, or address information, and so on. So any one of these data elements might be part of the PID segment. Similarly, there are other segments too. We will take a deeper dive into each of these segments later down the line when we individually look at what is a demographic message, what is appointment message, and so on. But as of now, we will try to understand how to read an HL7 message. So that's what we that's where we halted yesterday. So we'll take this very sample, I'll paste it in a notepad, and then we will explore and understand how to read an HL7 message. So here I have our notepad, and then let me grab the sample HL7 message. Okay, so let me set the language. This is not JavaScripting. Keep in mind, I am setting it to JavaScripting just because it enhances that color coding and we can evidently see what changes we have, what are the different segments we have and all. Okay, so yesterday I told you that at the end of every segment, there will be a full stop. which is called as carriage return, and this will help us to go ahead and determine what is the end of each of these segments. All right. So as you can see here, right now carriage return is not visible, but if you click on this symbol, which is to showing all the characters, you can see that there is a CR at the end of each segment. LF is line feed. Ignore that LF for now, but every message will have the CR, which will separate two segments from each other. It's like a full stop, which says that this sentence or this particular segment has been concluded. Okay. Then next we have is how to read a segment. So we'll pluck out this one specific segment called PID, and then we'll try to understand how to read it. So let me paste it here. So whenever you want to read any segment, reading segments within a message is easy because it is very evident that every segment begins with a three-letter acronym, and we'll be able to differentiate them and separate them. But when we want to specifically look at the segment itself, segment is further divided into fields is what we have seen yesterday, right? And what is the separating factor, or what is the character that is separating each field? It is nothing but the pipe. Okay. So this pipe is going to separate one field from another. So whatever is held between two pipes is called as a field. Okay. So whatever is held between two pipes is called as a field. So this is a field. This entire data is a second field, and this entire data is another field. This blank data or this blank is another field, and this is another field, and this is another field, and so on. Okay. So segments are divided into number of fields with the help of these pipes. Each field is separated from one another with the help of a pipe. So whatever is held between two pipes is called as one field. And these fields have a field position, okay, or field sequence. So this is called as field number 1. This is called as field number 2. This is called as field number 3. This is field number 4, field number 5, field number 6, field number 7, and so on. Okay. How many fields can a segment have? It depends. HL7 has clearly defined what is the number of segments each segment can have. We do not add new fields, or we do not remove fields that are already there in a segment. We just follow what is provided to us. So HL7 organization has clearly identified and created 40 fields in PID segment. Okay. And each of these fields are designated or are a dedicated placeholder for certain data element. For example, what all data elements we can have as part of patient name, as part of patient identification? You can have patient first name. You can, or basically, let's say you can have patient name, patient date of birth, patient gender, patient race, patient's ethnicity, and their address information, phone number, and then SSN number. And then you may also have patient's unique MRN number, medical record number, which is nothing but medical record number. And you may also have patient's email address, right? And then patient's account number. Okay. These are all the details that will be captured in the real time whenever patient is getting registered for the first time in the hospital. So what HL7 has done is they took all of these individual data points or data elements and put them into specific places in the PID segment. So yesterday I was giving you a metaphor or an example, right? That there is a rack, within rack there is a shelf. First compartment of that shelf is dedicated for t-shirts, second one is for shirts, third one is for trousers, and those are predefined dedicated placeholders to store that material. In the same way, when we look at the PID segment, all of these individual data elements that you're seeing here are dedicatedly placed into one of these fields. And these field positions are fixed and permanent. We don't change it. We just follow and see what is told by HL7 to us on where do we have what kind of data. Okay. We have talked about another example as well, right? Uh, we will have dedicated placeholder in house to go ahead and put keys in a specific location, put our maybe some other material in some specific location, so that even if it is dark, even if it is in the night, you will be able to navigate there, because you know that that is the place where you will get or find that information or find that material, right? In the same way, PID segment will hold all of these data elements. We just need to know where. That's what we'll take a look at. So first one is the name. So if you look at name in PID segment, PID 5 is dedicated for name. Okay. PID dot 5 is dedicated for patient name. So anywhere within the world, now if someone gives you an HL7 message, you can go ahead and read the name because you know that PID 5 has name, right? So all that you need to do is grab the message, read through the field numbers. So you will read that this is field number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the name is test. All right. So that is how you read through the field numbers and understand which field has what kind of data element. Okay. We will look at other fields as well. Berry has a question, so let's take it. Hey, Berry, go ahead.
Hi, Dixon.
Hey.
So you said you were going to teach us how to read how to read the HL7 message,
Mm-hmm.
HL7 message. Okay, like this PID,
Uh-huh.
after the field, we have like the data which said 0493575.
Uh-huh. Right.
And you said PID 5 stand for patient's name.
Right.
So by this data being like 0493575, can
Mm-hmm.
you just read the whole like data for us so I can understand? Because you only say just one, PID 5 is patient name. But here I'm seeing like data and it's more than one. It's like
Mm-hmm.
altogether it's like 6, some are 5. So does it mean that you have like patient's name, date of birth, gender all together without separating them? So kind of confused.
No. Here, each field is divided for, or each field is dedicated for certain data element, right? I picked up name so that we can easily relate to it and understand uh, which data point we are looking at. This is PID2, which is nothing but the patient's MRN number or patient's SSN number, that it is dedicated for patient identifiers. So we will come back to that. The whole idea is for us to understand at this point is that uh, each segment is divided into fields and they have some numbers. I mean,
Oh,
some position. So in PID, fifth position is dedicated for name. Okay. Seventh position. So this is field number 5. That is clear, right? This is field number 5
yeah.
because we are reading through whatever is held between two pipes. So this is field number 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is field number 4. And this is field number 5. So field number 5 is dedicated for patient name because in this example we are seeing here, but when you actually read an HL7 message or when we look at the specification, so if your question also relates to how do we know that PID 5 is name, right?
No,
So,
no, that's not my question.
oh,
Like you said PID 5 means patient's name.
right.
Like under this number 8 where you said PID 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess That's probably, so PID 1. So this number is it like a identification number, the 0493575?
Mm-hmm.
That's ID
Yes,
number, right? That's the
right.
ID number.
Patient's ID number, correct.
Patient's ID number. Okay,
Right.
after that, the second field said 4574. So what does that stands for? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
So
that is
that's
also another
PID.
patient number. So
Okay, they all
patients
patient
might have,
number.
yes, patients might have multiple identifiers. So this is one of those identifiers. This is another identifier. This field is blank right now. That fourth field is also dedicated for identifiers. So we are
Oh,
not yet there where we will be taking a deeper look at each field to see what kind of data element is present in 2, 3, 4. As of now, we are just seeing few of the data elements so that we know how to read the message. That's all.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
So PID 5 is patient name. PID 7 is patient's date of birth, or 7 is patient's DOB. And then PID 8, which is nothing but the next field, is patient's gender. All right. And then you have 9, 10, and then you have 11 here. So 11 is for patient's address. Okay. And then 12 is blank. 13 is for patient's phone number. Okay. In this way, each of the fields that you see in a segment are dedicated for certain type of data element. And who defines this? HL7 has predefined it. All that we need to see and understand is what is present in which field. And who provides that information to us? There is a specification document, which we will see down the line, which will tell you which field has what kind of data. Okay, so that will be our reference point to understand what kind of data is present in which field number. All right. Now, that being said, when we look at the patient name is not just one component. Patient name might have multiple components, right? What all do we have? Last name, first name, middle initial. You may have suffix like junior, senior, or you may have prefix like doctor or something else, right? So patient name can be further broken down into components. That being said, not every field can be divided into components. Few fields can be divided into components, few fields cannot be divided into components. Okay. So if a field had that scope of getting divided into components, HL7 has done that for us and divided that particular field into more number of components. Okay. And once we see PID 5, you can see that components are divided with the help of this symbol called as caret. Okay. So each component is separated from one another with the help of caret, like the way fields are separated from each other with the help of pipe. And in the same way of how fields can have field positioning, components will have component position. Okay, so this entire PID 5 is patient name, and patient name is further divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 components here. Okay, let's go get rid of other ones. I'll just have 3 components here for now for ease of understanding. So we have 3 components here overall. This is component number 1. This is component number 2. This is component number 3. So I'll say last name is Richard. Let me replace the name. Dixon. So PID 5 is having patient name. PID 5, field number 5, component number 1 is dedicated for patient's last name. PID.5.1. So in your index or in your when you read the HL7 message, first you will call out the segment name. and then the field number, and then the component number. So PID 5.1 is dedicated for patient last name. Similarly, PID.5.2 is dedicated for first name. PID.5.3 is dedicated for middle initial. Okay, in that way, there may be many components depending on the requirements that may be there as part of that name. You will have prefix, you will have suffix. There are 21 components in the PID5 field. Okay, now again, who defines that? Hl7 has already defined it, and they said that each component is dedicated and each component has its own name, and they have clearly said what data element of that particular field should go in which component number. Okay, don't worry about which component has what. As of now, we are just looking at understanding how to read the Hl7 message. Okay, now we have understood that fields are separated with the help of pipe and they have field positioning. Fields may be divided into components. If they are divided into components, each component has its own component number separated from each other with the help of a caret. And when we want to read through the field and component, we follow this notation. We'll call the segment name, we'll call out the sequence field positioning, and then we will call out the component positioning. So this way, if I'm telling someone that, hey, you know what, I'm sending patient first name in PID 5.2, they will be easily able to navigate through the HL7 message and understand that PID 5.2 is for patient last name, patient first name. Even if I don't tell them, it is universal. As it is universal and everyone understands HL7 message, nobody needs to explicitly discuss that we are sending patient name in PID 5. They are aware of it, right? So this is how you read through the HL7 message segments or segments, fields, and components. Okay. Now, if you look at patient date of birth, it is not divided further into components. It is one single field. Okay. There is no possibility of dividing it into more number of components. So they did not. Similarly, if patient gender, it is also not divided into multiple components. But if you look at the address field, it is divided into components. So a field getting divided into components is purely based on the specification that we need to refer. But if it is divided, they are divided with the help of caret. These components might be further divided into subcomponents, but we will take a look at that later down the line when we get to an example while going through structures of HL7 message. Okay. So we have a question from Bala. Yeah, Bala, go ahead.
This components and the fields, right? They will have a defined. For example, if it is a PID is a segment, it is going to have a specific number of fields and specific number of components, right? The only thing, it will not have a data, but this structure won't change, right? For example, if you don't have a last name, then the component between the second component will be blank there, like just like that. So it will not be 3, right? If you said that there's going to be 6 components, there will be 6 caret symbols in that, correct?
Right. No,
so always the number of caret symbols won't change, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It is not essential after the last data component. It is not essential to show all the all the empty fields as well.
Oh, okay. So it's not necessary. Okay. Does it apply to field as well?
Yes, it applies to field as well.
For example, the line number 4, right? So there is a lot of fields that is blank.
Right.
Can
all of these are not necessary. It is not mandatory to show all of them.
Okay. Got it. Okay. All right. So if it is line break, that means it's the end of the line. There is no more fields to it. Okay.
Correct.
Thanks, Dixon.
Yep. No problem. So another important point, which I was about to explain, is you see few empty fields here, right? This is empty, and there are few empty fields. So if there is no data that is present within the application for a certain field, then we leave it blank. We don't move or change the component field positions that, okay, this field is blank, so let me go ahead and bring up PID, patient name into PID4. No, we don't do that, because this is the dedicated placeholder for that specific data element. If that data element is not available within the application, then we just leave it blank. For example, patient did not provide or doesn't have a middle name. In that case, we just leave that field as blank, that particular component as blank. As of now, this component is blank. Let's say patient did not provide the date of birth because they don't know. So PID7 is dedicated for patient's date of birth, but patient doesn't have date of birth captured within the application, so we will leave it blank. Okay, so this is how you read the HL7 message through all the segments. So whenever we say PV13, PV13 basically represents patient's location. So this is 1, 2, and 3. This is patient's location. PV17 is doctor's name. Okay, so all that we need to understand as of now is each segment is divided into fields. Fields are divided into components, and they are dedicated placeholders, and they won't change. Okay, so we will go ahead and explore further more about segments and fields down the line once we look at each of the message types. Okay, so next we will take a look at how do we go ahead and how HL7 messaging works. So that's what we'll take a look at next. So we looked at the example, we understood how to read the message. Next, let's take a look at how HL7 messaging works. So I gave a brief intro yesterday, right? Hey, sorry. So I gave a brief intro yesterday on how HL7 messaging works. So basically the standard is drafted or written from a perspective that there are series of events that will be happening in the real world. So what are those series of events? If you go look back our HL7, the hospital workflow, we saw that within the hospital workflow, there are many series of events. Patient getting registered is one event. Patient having an appointment scheduled is another event. Then patient having the financials, or basically the invoices or the claims generated, that is another event, right? And then patient having order placed by the doctor is another event. So in this way, right from the beginning, when patient enters into the hospital till the point he leaves the hospital, there are series of events that will be happening, or there are series of events that will be taking place in the hospital. And if this event demands for the data to be sent from one system to another, which means an event has occurred and that event wants that data to be transmitted from one system to another, then such kind of events are called as trigger events. Okay, what those events are called? Such kinds of events are called trigger events because they are triggering the data from system A to system B or system 1 to system 2. Okay. So patient getting admitted to the hospital is one event where the data has to be transacted from PM system to EHR system so that both the systems are in sync with each other with respect to patient data. Similarly, you have another trigger event is an observation, basically an order, test order, lab order that is placed by the doctor to send the order information from EHR to lab. Right? So EHR will go ahead and place, or doctor will place the order in EHR and that will be sent over to lab. This is another event. Okay. So in this way, there will be many series of events that will be happening within the hospital. And only few of those events will be called as trigger events because not every event data is necessary to be sent out. So if an event demands the data transfer, such kind of event is called as trigger event. So what is an example of an event which is not a trigger event? Let's say patient walks in and so let's say that patient has got an appointment with certain doctor. He's about to meet the doctor. Even before meeting the doctor, the head nurse will take basic vitals like their blood pressure, their height, their weight, and their basically the glucose levels or other vitals might be captured and saved within the system even before they meet the doctor. So the doctor will be ready. Doctor have the data ready even before the patient comes or patient meets and actually talks to the doctor, right? So these trigger events are basically captured there. Sorry, these that is an event that has happened, but the data that is captured during that event is not required to be sent anywhere. It is stored within the EHR system, right? And we are not sending it anywhere because no one needs it, and EHR is the uh, final placeholder of that particular data. So this is not a trigger event because we are not sending the data anywhere. Okay, a trigger event is an event which will demand or which will have the requirement of the data to be sent from one system to another. Okay, so that is called as a trigger event. So next, let's see how they are categorized. So if you look at the hospital, within the hospital, you have many different sectors of or sections of data. Okay, number one, you can categorize them into registration. Then you have appointment scheduling. Then you have labs. Then you have pharmacies. Then you have invoices, which are nothing but claims. All right. So all of these data sections might be there in the real-time hospital scenario. Okay. I am telling that it is registration. I am telling that it is appointment, which is our regular language. But in terms of HL7, when you go to HL7's naming conventions, those are a little bit different. Let's see what they are. So if you talk about hospital, registrations are called as ADTs. ADT stands for admission, discharge, and transfer. Okay, this is called as message code. So message code will help us to understand and determine what section of the data we are looking at or what kind of data we are looking at. So if you see ADT, then it means that we are talking about admission, discharge, or transfer related events. The next one that we have is appointment scheduling. Appointment scheduling is a category, and this has a message code of SIU. SIU stands for scheduling information unsolicited. Likewise, we have lab orders, which is called as ORM and ORU. So there are two message codes here. One is for lab orders, one is for results. Each of these have their own full forms. We'll see these full forms down the line. But just to let you know, ORM is for observation request message because doctors are going to request for an observation to be performed. And then ORU is nothing but observation result unsolicited. Then finally, you have DFT, which is detailed financial transaction. Okay, these are the naming conventions used by HL7. Okay, and in the HL7 message, at some or the other place, in some or the other segment, you are going to see this particular notation. And by looking at this notation, we'll be able to determine what kind of message we are dealing with. So we will come back to the HL7 sample to see where do we find this. But even before that, we need to further break it down and understand how these each individual sections or what all the events that may be part of these individual sections. Okay, so if you talk about registrations, what kind of events we may have under registration? It may be a new patient registration. It may be an update of existing patient information, right? I specified only two here, but there are many more. Patient getting discharged to another location, or patient getting discharged to home, or getting transferred to another location. Let's say from emergency department to the uh, patient's uh, inpatient department. Okay, so in that way, there will be many different events that will be part of registration, which can be regarding admission, which can be regarding discharge, which can be regarding transfer. Similarly, when we talk about appointments, you will have many more. New appointment creation, update of an existing appointment is another event. Cancellation of another appointments is another event. Similarly, you have lab orders. In lab orders, you have orders and results. Likewise, you have invoice generation, which is nothing but billing details. Okay, so each of these sections or sectors can be categories can be further divided into events. So these events will add up, and these events are the main events that we'll be looking at. So these are our general terms. Now let us see what are these called in term in HL7 view or HL7 messaging methodology. So we have registration. New patients are called as ADT A04 or ADT A28. Then you have update of patient information, which can be represented with A08 or A31. So these numbers are even numbers. And these even numbers will tell you that what kind of event it is. So whenever I say A28, you need to understand that we are talking about new patient registration data. Or whenever I say A31 or A08, you need to understand that I'm talking about patient's update related event, which means patient was already there in the system, but he changed his phone number or email address or some sort of data that belongs to him. Similarly, you have appointment scheduling. Appointment scheduling has uh, new appointments. New appointments are represented with S12, and then update appointment are represented with S14. Cancellation of appointments are represented with S15. Okay. So whenever you talk about any event, you will represent it with the message code and the event type. So message code is SIU, event type is S12. Message code is SIU, event type is S14. Message code is SIU for cancellation and event type is S15. Now, where do we see this in the HL7 message? Let's go back to our message. So if you look at the HL7 message, you see here that we have ADTA04 in segment called a message. Okay. And this will help us to understand what kind of message is this. So A04 is dedicated for new patient registration. That's what we understood from our previous slide, right? ADT A04 or A28, both of them represent new patient registrations. Okay. And by looking at that message, I can understand that this particular message is actually transacting patient demographic information from PM to EHR and new patient demographic information from PM to EHR. If our message says SIU S12, it means that SIU S12 is basically used for new appointment information. So whenever an appointment gets created in the PM system, all the information regarding that appointment will be created into a message called SIUS12, and that SIUS12 message will be sent from the PM system to the HR system. Okay, so this is nothing but the name of the message, and this field is called as message type. Okay, so what is it called? That field number is message.9, and it is called as message type. And this has two components. message message.9.1. First component is nothing but message code. Then second component, message.9.2, is dedicated for event type. So message code will tell the category. Event type will specifically tell what event we are dealing with. Okay, so every message has its own message type. By looking at the message type, we'll be able to understand what is the message we are looking at. Okay. And then for lab orders, you have ORM O01 is the event type. For results, we have ORM R01. And then finally, you have DFTs. So DFTs has this event type. Sorry, I think it is not shown up here, but DFTs has an event type of P03. Okay. Where are these event types coming from? Where are these message types coming from? This is dedicated and these are created by HL7. These are designations that are given by HL7. And all that we need to know is which kind of event type is used for what kind of event. Okay. So yesterday I told you that there are in 2.3 version, there are 50 message types, 80 event types, more than 86 message types and event types and all, right? So there are many different events, many different message types which are used in the for the real-time workflows. For example, if you want to send immunization data, you will be using VXU. Okay, if you talk about sending pharmacy-related data, you will be using a message code called as RDE. We are not seeing it all of them. We are just seeing it most frequently used in today's world, specifically in terms of general workflows. So we are just picking up the common data element, data message types and event types and taking a look at that. Okay. So we will be looking more into these individual message types in detail. So in the upcoming sessions, what we are going to do is we are going to take a look at how do we, what is the structure of ADT A04 or A28? What is the structure of SIUS 12? What is the structure of SIUS 14? So we'll take a look at all of those aspects down the line. Okay. All right, so that concludes our today's session about event-driven messaging methodology. We looked at segments, we looked at fields, we understood what are the different categories of data that we can have in the hospital, and we also looked at what are message types, message codes, and event types. Tomorrow, what we'll do is we will begin with looking at each one of these individual message types and explore what are the segments present in each one of these message types and see what are the fields that are important in each one of those segments. So we will be taking a look at all of these message types that you're seeing on the screen right now. Okay, and understand the structures of these segments, these message types. So we'll conclude today's session here. I'll open up for questions. So Javier has a question. Javier, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Dixon. I wrote a question, but you already answered without reading my question. It's okay. But
Okay.
can we find a document with that standard, or it is something like private?
No, it is not private. It is out there. I'll show you tomorrow where to find the documents, how to see what is the predefined structure that is given by HL7. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Dixon, I have another question. Like,
Hey Bala, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
if our message type is SIU, right? Do we need to do our HL7 need to have ORM or ORU segments or any other segments that is not relevant to the message type?
Sorry, repeat that question, please.
No, if let's say our message type is SIU, right? For scheduling.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In that, do we need to have segments like ORM or ORU, or it's an optional? We can skip some of the segments if it is not relevant.
ORM, ORU are message types. They are not segments.
Okay, ORM, ORU. So, okay.
It is the name of an event. So always, right. Always related it to what is happening in the real time. It will be very easy for us to remember.
Okay.
So I am saying that I am sending a lab order, but in HL7 language, what do you say? I will say it as ORM 001.
ORM, okay. That is the message event type. Okay, that's the event type.
Right.
Okay, but does this message type dictates presence or absence of any other segment?
Yes, each of these message types will have its own dedicated structure,
Okay.
and we need to see that. So that's what we will see slowly one by one for each one of these message types.
Okay. I was curious to know like how
Hmm.
whether the HL7 will change based on these
It
events
will.
and
It will, obviously, right? So because we will have different flavors of data in different events. So it's like our textbooks in the school. We used to have science, social, the content within all of them are textbooks, but the content changes based on the name of the book.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
In the same way, based on the type of the event, the content of that event will change, which will, how do you read the content? You will read through the segments and fields. So there will be different segments for different message types. There may be few segments that will be common and repeated between all of the message types as well. For example, MSH is a segment which will be present in all the HL7 messages, irrespective of which kind of message type you are dealing with.
Okay.
Few may have new dedicated segments that we haven't seen or may have not seen before in any one of the messages.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, if you have any manual parser, like if you have a programmatic parser, if you build, that means the parser code or the way how it process will change based on this message types, right? Because the message structure will be different.
Correct. I mean, yeah, if you're working through your development of how to construct an HL7 message based on the event, we will be doing a lot of different things.
Thanks, Dixon. That makes sense.
No problem. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Ishan, go ahead.
Yeah. So all this field sequence and positions are fixed, right?
Right, correct.
So are you gonna give us any reading material so we can go through it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah,
it's
we
hard to
are
learn.
going to. Yes, absolutely. You don't need to worry about reading and learning all the fields and all the segments. I have, let me give you a snippet so that you guys can get an idea.
Okay. Thank you.
So what we are going to do tomorrow is we are going to look at these segments individually, one by one. So for A04 or A08, these are the common segments that will be there. We'll be exploring each segment. So here you can see that the field number for each of these segments, right? So you may be having many fields in one segment, but it is not essential to learn all of them. I have highlighted whatever is necessary in green, okay, so that we can learn. And those are the common things that we need to really understand what this field is for. So I'll explain what each of these individual fields are dedicated for. Wherever we need workflow discussion, we will discuss why certain field is present in, what is the use of certain field. Okay, so that's what we are going to explore more. We'll get deeper into the structure of the message as and when we progress through the training. Okay, I'll be sharing those all materials will be uploaded to Google Drive. Whatever we see, whatever you have seen yesterday, today, and throughout the training, all of these materials will be uploaded to the Google Drive. Any other questions from anyone?
Hi, Disca.
Hey, Kumar. Yeah.
Is SQL prerequisite for this course?
Kind of, yeah. Not SQL entirely. So I would recommend you guys knowing little bit about SQL of how to write select commands, update commands, and if possible, if you have time, you can go ahead and go through joins as well. Okay. So, but we have at least 2 weeks of time for us to reach to a point where we really need SQL. So if you guys do not know about SQL, please go ahead and go through W3 schools and understand these concepts of how to write select commands, update commands, and joins.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right. Any other questions from anyone else?
And Dixon, do we have to memorize every fields, like every
Mhm.
positions, or like we have to just specific, like like for ADT, because in my
Mhm.
organization we are only using ADT, ORM, and
Right.
ORUs,
Mhm.
So we have to memorize every field, like
No, not necessary. That is the reason I highlighted few of the fields. And at the end of completing all the message, after completing all the message types, I'll tell you what are the most important segments that you will need to memorize if you are in field of HL7.
okay, got it. Yeah.
At least few segments are compulsory. A few
Mhm.
segments and few of the fields in each one of those segments are mandatory because that's what will be asked during our interview.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll cover that. I don't want to just let the names out right now because we may uh, subconsciously concentrate only on those specific segments. So I'll voice them out once we complete the HL7 part of the training.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, great. So we will conclude today's session here. So Srinivas has pasted his number in the chat. So if you're considering to enroll, please go ahead and enroll. From tomorrow, only the enrolled participants can continue. So please go ahead and reach out to Srinivas if you would like to continue. Yeah, Javier, you have a question?
No, I just want to thank you. Thank you, Dixon.
All right. Okay, great. All right, guys. Thank you so much. You all have a great day and night ahead. We'll connect tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dixon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.